Not want to be up this early in the morning. Let's go to the Facebookies. Facebook, what you want to tell me today, Facebookies? How dumb are people today? Oh, look. Vivian's birthday. How fortuitous, because I just did a shop vlog, but that picture I did for shop vlog is not birthday material. It's not like worthy of birthday postings. It's a great photo, but it's... Oh god, I should just do that other photo that I wanted to do where she's sitting at the edge of the truck, the natural light, it looks really cool. That's a birthday image. You do that for the shop vlog because there's crap in there you can see. Oh, I have to go take a shower. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm David Bird with Reality Reimagined, and welcome to episode 2, version 2 of the shop vlog. I love that introduction. So sparkly. I'd already done episode 2 of the shop vlog featuring this image with this wonderful talent, Vivian. You can see all of her work by following her Instagram link at the bottom of the screen. This image is great. It's shot wide open with a prime lens. I had a wonderful time editing it, and there were some nice little teaching moments in it, but it's her birthday today. This image, albeit is nice and it's pretty and it's wonderful and it's well done, it's not birthday image material. And there was another image that caught my eye in this series during the session with her that I wanted to edit, and I was going to be editing it later, potentially for another episode of the shop vlog. But since it's her birthday today, we're going to redo the shop vlog and we're going to edit this image that we're going to take a look at right now in the Adobe Camera Raw. So this image was photographed toward the end of our shoot. This is shot at a junkyard where there is a massive shootout that happens every January in Arizona. There's like hundreds of people that come to it, and it's a wonderful, wonderful time. This was shot right at sunset, and I'm using my Canon R. I'm using a 24-70. This was shot at 24 millimeters, 1/160th of a second, f10, and ISO 100 to get all this wonderful natural golden light into the scene. And with this beautiful golden light, of course, comes a lot of different shadows, and I didn't mind that. I like the contrast, I like the drama of the shadows, because without the shadows, the highlights are not as poignant and so forth. They just look like bright pictures or bright parts of the pictures. So I don't necessarily want to take out the shadows too much as we prepare this image for Photoshop, but let's get into it and let's start working with it and see what magic we can create today on... I'm not going to say it because I just want to play the logo again. So anyway, so I'm going to come to the lens corrections tab, check both of these boxes, which overcomes some of the issues of the lenses itself and makes everything just a little bit brighter. Then I'm going to come to the shadows and start pulling those out just a little bit, so we can get a little bit more detail into the shadows. But my goal is, again, to not completely remove the shadows and the contrast and drama that's created by it. I just want to lift them a little bit and get some more detail into it. Pulling out the black points, let's take the contrast down just a tad, just a little bit, and that's good. Let's bring the highlights down ever so slightly because they are just a tad strong on her face, which is fine. I'm going to go ahead and increase the texture because she's pretty far away in this image. So once we do the retouching, adding texture right now in Adobe Camera Raw is not going to hurt the image at all. I'm going to give it just a little touch of dehaze, which is like contrast 2.0 in my opinion. I'm going to go ahead and give it some vibrance, and we'll do saturation to match. Come on, get to 8. There we go. It looks lovely. Exposure. The exposure I think is fine as it is, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. But what I do want to do right here is the temperature, and it's set to 6200. So I'm going to bring this down just a little bit to like 5800 because we're going to introduce just a little bit more blue overall and cool the image down. Since it's at the golden hour, we're going to have a lot of strong orange everywhere within the scene, and that's fine. It's golden hour. I don't want to eliminate it entirely, but by cooling the image down just a little bit, it's not going to be so overly orange and saturated and Oompa Loompa like. And there's a lot of earth tones in this image, so I just don't want to take it too far there. It's ready to go into the Photoshop. So I'm going to hit open image, and now we're going to start dealing with some of the issues within the image that have nothing to do with the golden hour or anything else. It has to do with the fact that some photographer left his light modifier sticking in the back of the truck with a gel on it because it's what he was doing in the previous photos. And instead of taking the time to walk over there and pull it out of the scene, I said that famous phrase that you always say, which is, oh, I'll fix it in post. And now I have to spend a few minutes cloning it out, whereas I could have just walked over there and took it out, and I would have saved myself all of that time. So what I want to do is to do something that's quite simple. I'm just going to use the clone stamp tool, S for the clone stamp tool, and I'm going to make sure that my opacity and flow is set to 100%. Yep, that's good. And let's just start cloning upward. Now, these aren't going to match up right away, and that's okay. I just need to put down a base. I'm using the clone stamp tool as like a brush. a paintbrush. Traditional painter, painterly, doing painting things to the picture. There we go. Oh, that might have been a little too much. Let's go a step back and let's be a little more careful. And you know what we need to do? We need to make a selection of the truck and then protect it. So I'm going to hit W for the quick selection tool. I'm going to select the truck. Oh, look at that. It's just so fast. Like it's Skynet and it's real and it knows everything. Where's John Connor? So now we have a protection of the truck, so it's completely protected. Then I'm going to hit Control Shift and the letter I to invert it. So now I can clone inside the selection and it will protect the truck, because the truck is technically on the outside of the selection. It's on the outside looking in. It's not a part of this party. You're not invited, Mr. Truck. Okay, so let's get rid of all of this. This doesn't have to be precise or match up because we're going to be reducing the opacity, or I'm sorry, the flow, not the opacity, the flow of the clone stamp tool, and introduce some other lighter tones, darker tones of blue. I'm gonna get rid of that little wire up there because the thingy, the light modifier, was covering it up just a little bit, and I don't want to get that precise and clone it in, because keep in mind we're talking about a section of the image way over there. And if anybody's looking at this picture and they're pixel counting and going, well, I can kind of technically tell that there was a second little tie line there on that truck. You know, I used to have a truck. I'm gonna come to this side because it's a different tone of blue, and we'll just gently bring that in. We're using a Wacom Intuos Pro tablet, so it has pressure sensitivity, and the lighter that we interact with the pen to the tablet, the lighter that it's going to put down the paint in the Photoshops. We of course went over the line with that, over the line! So I'm going to hit Y for the history brush, and the history brush is going to just undo whatever I have done. Now if you didn't see it before, you would never know that it was there, and you would never realize that there was another rope in the scene, and everything is dandy. So let's go ahead and frame this image. I'm bringing a helper guide that snaps right to the center of my image, and what I want to do is I want Vivian, our model, to go right through the center. So I'm going to unlock the background layer and resize it until her nose is right on that center line, and then hit enter to accept the transformation, and then I'm going to go ahead and flatten the image. Now I'm going to run my retouch 3.0 action, which is going to populate the layers for frequency separation, dodging and burning, and an eye. We're going to start cleaning up the skin. We're going to clean up different blemishes and the little strands of hair and anything else that's a distraction from that far away. So at this point, enjoy the background music as I speed up the entire process with the magic of velocity in video editing. Velocity, shuffle. So I think that looks pretty good as far as getting rid of any distractions. I'm going to turn off the black and white adjustment layer just to kind of take a peek and see if there's any pixels or any issues within it. No, because the rest of it now is just using the mixer brush and cleaning up some color. But what I do want to do is I don't like all of these shadows that we can see right through here. These shadows are being caused by this true strand of hair and then this clump of hair right there. So this clump of hair is that shadow, and then this little strand of hair is that shadow. So we're going to use frequency separation to paint all of that out. And this is one of the multitudes of reasons why I love frequency separation, and I love this process, because you can not only use it for skin retouching, you can paint, you can change things, you can fix wrinkles, you can do all kinds and get rid of shadow. You can do it. It's just amazing. It's a wonderful process. If you do not know more about frequency separation and you want to learn about it, check out the other videos on this channel by looking at that little card up there. So okay, cool. Here we go. Let's paint first. What do you want to paint first? Or do we want to do the details first? Because you have to do both. You have to remove the details because there are strong details that are creating the shadow as well as color. So I wonder which one will have more pomp and pizzazz for you all. Let's do both. We're going to start with painting first. So I'm going to come to paint number 1, skin retouch, hit B for the traditional brush. I'm going to hit Alt or Option to sample the nearby color, and I'm going to change my flow of my brush to 5%. We're going to start smoothing it out. Now you'll notice that it's starting to cover it up just a little bit, but there's also still a shadow there. We can see it and it's like, well, hey, that's still hair there. That's still a problem, right? Even though we're painting it a new color by just sampling the existing colors that are there. So we need to now come to the detail layer, hit S for the clone stamp tool. We're clone stamping at 100% opacity and flow, and we just need to borrow the details from the same zone and region and just blown over the shadow. And instantly the shadow is gone by painting color and getting rid of the details. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and speed this up again as you can watch in high velocity as I completely remove all the shadows from her neck. And go. Done. I think it looks good from this distance, and keep in mind again, if nobody has seen it, nobody knows that it exists, it looks good. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to come to the color layer itself and use the mixer brush. Probably should speed this part up too, because this is going to be a little long. So the mixer brush has cleaned up the basic tones that we see within the image, those basic transitions of color and luminosity values. I'm going to hit this one a little bit more right there so it doesn't look like a indentation down. And I think all of that looks pretty good. I am going to go back to the main color layer that we've been painting on. I'm going to sample some existing color and paint at a flow of 1%. I just want to smooth these out just a little bit more and give them just a little nicer polish and transition instead of having them look like she's crinkling her eyes. Because of course it's at sunset, and even though she's not looking directly at the sun, it's a little intense because the sun in Arizona, I don't know if you've ever been here or not, it's quite intense. It's a whole different star than the star that the rest of you on planet Earth are used to. It's completely different, just within our state lines. It's very just fascinating and confusing. So that all looks pretty good. I think the transitions look fine. So I think it's time to move on to some dodging and burning because the image looks pretty good as it is. I don't think we need to do any more, so I'm gonna come up to the burn and start with the burn because I like starting with the burn for dodging and burning. I'm gonna go to a flow of 10%. And paint white on the layer mask, not black, David. It's like I just learned Photoshop yesterday. Give it some strong dodge and burn so we can see. Let's change the flow to 5% and hit down here. Just give this a little bit of a base and pull in. Hit back through there. Sculpt her jawline a little bit more right through there. There we go. I don't need to hit that part. Let's speed it up because I'm just going to be dodging and burning for a little while. But dodging and burning, if you don't know what dodging and burning is, you can check out videos on my channel. Here we go. Now, for the dodge. Done. Now we need to take a look at it and assess and see how strong it is. If there's any areas where we pull too much focus. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Yeah. I think what I want to do for an artistic enhancement is I definitely want to bring out a lot of the textures that are in the sky and see what we're dealing with there. So to see an example of that, I'm going to hit Control or Command and letter J to duplicate, and then go to Adobe Camera Raw as a filter. Control, Shift, and A. And then let's pump up the clarity, push up the clarity. I don't like the word pump up. It just feels bizarre. Pump up. We're going to push up the clarity and get us that really strong HDR look. Let's increase the dehaze. Dehaze is going to give us that rich, beautiful color into the sky. That looks good. And then we're going to hit texture on the sky too, just so we can see some more of it. I think that looks great. Let's go down to saturation and increase the saturation of it. Sweet. Let's go ahead and bring this back into the Photoshops, and let's just mask this off of her skin. So we're going to put a white mask or reveal all and paint this away. I hate the zoom tool right now. Adobe, please fix it. Paint some black to take this away. Now I'm going to go ahead and flatten that, and then I'm going to duplicate the layer, and let's go to high pass, and let's give it a high pass set of adjustments. High pass, let's go, not that much, let's go like 2, maybe 3, no, let's go 2, and then hit OK, and then we're going to change the blending mode of this to soft light. It just gives us a gentle little boost to the overall details of the image, just a gentle one. We just want just gentle, just soft little boost. And I think it looks good. I'm going to go ahead and flatten that. Now we just need to color grade, and there's so many different options and choices of how we could color grade and what we could do. We could do just a very simple artistic infusion into this image based upon the colors that we see, or we can give it an entire color cast if we wanted to. We can experiment. But let's experiment for the shop vlog for the first time by adding a color lookup table. Color lookup tables, or LUTs as they are called, are ways that cinema movies are color graded, but ultimately color lookup tables are just like color recipes, so to speak, where different colors have been infused into a scene and then you make a look for it, or a preset, or whatever you want to call it. So we're going to come to color lookup, and we're going to go where it says load 3D lookup. Now Photoshop comes with some color lookup tables already inside of it, but you can find some and download them for free if you want to. Like these came from a subscription to Flern, which Flern is a wonderful channel, and Aaron Nace is an amazing teacher. So if you've never checked out the Flern channel on YouTube, you should do that. But through here, I like these. These I've used many different times, and it gives us an instant color grade. I like the teal and orange. That's why I wanted to do a lookup table. So teal and orange is like the common, here's a teaching moment, so let's pay attention. Teal and orange is like the common lookup table that's used in cinematography and used in film. If you look at different films, you will see scenes where the background has some version of blue or teal in it, and the human being in the scene has a lot of orange in their skin tone. Wonder Woman, the movie Wonder Woman, was a great example of that. There's some other movies, like I just saw a trailer, some footage. I was reading a blog about the John Wick movies with Keanu Reeves. Whoa! And there's a lot of like teal and orange in that. That's a really strong color lookup table, and that's commonly used all the time because you get this interesting look. Now I don't mind this one not because it's commonly used and everybody used it and I want to be like everybody else and cool like them. No, it's because why? Well, it's infusing orange and blue. So blue is the Pantone color of the year. The sky is half of this picture, and there's blue in the sky. So I like that. And then of course it's adding the opposite, which is orange, and that's putting it into the earth tone. So the rust in the truck is coming out. Vivian's coming out in her skin tones, and then it's infusing those teals and blues into the shadows, which I really like. So I like this. I think it looks perfect. I'm going to come back to this one because there's a second one. I think it's this one. Yeah, that one, that's way more contrasty. I liked that one. I can't pronounce the name of it. Hulandite. So anyway, I like that. That looks pretty good, and that's a nice little hint of color grade. But now I want to take it just a little bit further. So I'm going to come to my selective color adjustments, and this gives me the ability to do a color balance between CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, and then Kelvin. or I can balance it with RGB. Now it doesn't list RGB on the side here because essentially if you take this slider right here and push it toward the right, you're going to be increasing the cyan that's in the image. If you take it to the left, you're essentially increasing the red that's in the image. And what's great about this particular adjustment layer, Selective Color Adjustment layer, is that you have that ability for every single color that's in the picture, including the bright, the whites, the grays, and the blacks within the image, ultimately the luminosity values within the image. So we can play around and mess around with those, but I don't really need to for this picture. What I want to do is come to the black point within the image, the luminosity values, and I'm going to add some blue to the scene, RGB. So right now if we look, CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, yellow. If I want to do RGB, I have to just simply push this slider this way, and I'm infusing just a hint more blue into those shadows, giving it just a little bit more push, and I like that. That looks really cool. Now I can also increase the color, increase the luminosity value, the brightness of that color in the shadows and take them away, or make them really rich and deep. So I'm just going to give them just a little gentle touch of that matte feeling so that the colors come into play a little bit more. Now let's go to the whites, and we're going to simply want to add some red to the whites. How do we do that? We come up here and just infuse it. Now the white point, it's not actually adding it to the white, it's doing it to the luminosity values, and it's doing it so minimally that it's not really that noticeable, so never mind. Let's come to the midtones and push just a little bit of red into those, and maybe just a touch of magenta, yeah, and then just a little hint of the yellow. There we go. Cool. And look at a vast difference. Let me get this out. Get out of the way. This is such a vast difference that one adjustment layer does, color grading your picture and giving it some personalized touch that you can choose to do, which I think looks really slick and cool. The last thing that I want to do is I do want to return the blue sky some of the original blue that's in it before we got into that scene with the color lookup table. I love the teal and I think it looks great, but I just want to infuse a little bit of blue into it. And there's a few different ways of doing this, and I think ultimately the easiest way is we're going to do a solid color adjustment layer, and we're going to choose a color of blue that looks peaceful and nice. And then I'm going to put it on top. See, notice how this is the color blue that we chose, but when it's at the bottom of the layer stack here, it's turning it teal because that's what the color lookup table is doing. It's simply looking for blue and shifting it to teal. So in this case, and again, we could do color balance and shift it this way, but let's explore this one and just see how it goes. So we're going to do it for color, and then we're going to hide the mask, and then I'm going to use a B for brush. Whoops, I gotta hit enter. There we go, B for brush, and I'm going to flow. 20% is too much, let's go to 10%, and then I'm just gonna gently paint it in a couple of areas when I paint white onto the scene. I just want to give just little hints of it in certain places. Just some of those different pops of it. Maybe along the clouds just a little bit, and some of the deeper tones. There we go. That looks cool. Pretty. Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. At this point, I think it's we could add a lens flare. Let's add a light flare. I like light. I like to add light and flares into it. Maybe I'm J.J. Abrams somehow. I'm just channeling my inner J.J. Abrams. I like J.J. Abrams. He's a good... Anyway, we're going to add a lens flare. So I'm going to make a new blank layer above everything, and then I'm going to hit G for the gradient tool, change my foreground color to a nice bright orange color, salmon, whatever you want to call it. Let's go to screen as our blending mode. We're on the radial gradient tool, and we're doing foreground color to transparent as our option, and then an opacity to 30%. Let's bring it in like that, and we just get that little hint of light. I like that. I think it's cool. I'm gonna make another one that's just a little bit smaller right there, and then yeah, right there. So it feels like the sun is just setting. Let's go back one step. Yeah, it feels like the sun is just setting right off the edge of our frame like that, and I think that looks pretty cool. So at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and flatten everything because this picture is done, and I think it looks beautiful, and I really hope that Vivian likes it for her birthday today. So thank you for being a part of the shop vlog and watching along. I appreciate all of your support on the YouTubes and so forth. If you enjoy the content here that's in the shop vlog or other videos on this channel, please give it a like. The like is the way that you tell the YouTube algorithm that this channel needs to grow and that it has merit, and it will push it out to the masses on the platform of YouTube. Subscribe to the channel to stay at top of new content that's coming out to the channel, whether we explore gelled photography, we explore retouching. We're also going to be exploring comparisons between different software programs and processes in Photoshop that I go through on the regular basis. So like and subscribe. Thank you for being a part of this journey today. And until next time, I will see you out there in the world of Photoshop.